having clarity of purpose. I think that's really important. It can have different layers to it. Like, I think the first layer for me personally is clarity of, forget about the work, forget about, the actual functional side. Why do I want to do this? And ultimately for me, it was about how can I, in my lifetime here on earth, do something that is actually going to leave something more meaningful in terms of change for myself and my family and my community.
Hi, and welcome back to Care Beyond Profits. I'm Zura Ali. In this episode, I'm joined by the incredible Husain Al-Badry. Husain is a purpose-led leader and he is a managing director at Scene Ventures. Before launching Scene Ventures, he spent 2 decades at Datacom, starting as a grad and rising all the way to the Associate Director of Innovation and Growth. We talk about growing up in Iraq, Jordan, and New Zealand, and how that shaped his resilience. He speaks openly about leadership, faith, integrity, and also the courage it takes to walk away from security to building something aligned with who you truly are. If this speaks to you, please like, share, and subscribe to Care Beyond Profits. Let's get into it. Husain, thank you so much for joining me on this podcast today. It's such a privilege to have you on the show. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Azura. It's my pleasure. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. I really wanted to start originally with your origin story. And before we dig into that, just for the listeners here, I want you to describe to me, without your CV and without anything about your work, if I was to come around and I looked at you, and what would you describe this as? Who is Husain?
Who is Husain? Husain has multiple, he's got multiple, lenses and facets to him, I think. Husain is a father and a husband. There's a big family element to my life. I got married when I was quite young, 22. And so I've got a 15-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old son. So, Husain is a dad and a husband and a family guy. Husain is a technology professional and executive. So I trained as a software engineer. I haven't written a single line of code in over 12 years. And I've built a few technology businesses within a big company in New Zealand called Datacom, as well as my own business more recently. And so, you could call Husain an entrepreneur, I guess, as well. Now it's I feel like an imposter when I say that word, because I don't think I deserve it. And Husain is someone who cares about community as well. So community is a big part of my life, and I guess there's different communities as well that I have. So there is professional community, there is faith community, and I guess you could call it cultural community, and also more recently, I guess, social justice community, with everything. I mean, I've always, Palestine has always been quite a central part to my life. My wife's Palestinian, or my children are half Palestinian. I'm originally Iraqi, but I grew up in Jordan, and so I had a lot of Palestinian culture and people around me all the time. So that's always been a central part of my life, but especially in the last 20 months, that's been a central feature. So I guess that's another community as well. And that's a global community as it's shaping up right now.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. And I want to go into a little bit about more of, you said you came, you're Iraqi, Jordanian, you've got some Palestinian. I want to go a bit more into that. So can you share a little bit more about your upbringing? What did that look like? What were your parents like? And how did you get to New Zealand?
Yes, I was born in Iraq, born during the Iraq-Iran war. And then after that finished, lived as a child through the Gulf War. I guess survivor of 2 wars. My parents were both, middle class. They're academics, both of them. So they both did postgraduate studies. They actually did their postgraduate studies in the UK, and then they returned back to Iraq. And I've got one sister. So, we're a fairly average middle class family with academic parents who used to teach at the university. So that was a lot of my sort of upbringing. As the Gulf War sort of turned into sanctions against Iraq, life over there became much harder. My dad, bless his soul, he was an economist, so he could see like the direction that things were heading in. So he was proactive about trying to find alternatives for the family, and so yeah, we left and went to Jordan. He worked at the university over there. I found it as a child interesting having to adapt to these different settings. So I think that probably embedded an element of adaptability within me. So change was a common factor. Jordan, new friends, reset all from zero, new life, new culture. Even though Jordan and Iraq are next to each other, their cultures are nothing alike, and so had to readjust. And then 4 years later, we got to migrate to New Zealand. So my parents are professional migrants. Mum was actually the lead applicant, so she landed in New Zealand with me before my dad and my sister. My sister was finishing her degree overseas. And then my dad got a small stint before returning to New Zealand in the UAE. So he went for a very short stint there, and he actually passed away over there. So Mum was here with me at the age of 14, and then she suddenly had to be a single mother and bring me up. So that's again another dynamic that I guess kind of played into my life, as while there was this constant change and adaptability, there was this journey that I started to take on with my mum in a new place that sort of shaped, I guess, a lot of my perspective on life, and a lot of my priorities and maybe my values. Like, I think loyalty is a pretty strong value for me, and it's probably come out of that sense of loyalty to my family, and especially my mum.
Loyalty, that's a beautiful word there. Can we zoom in a bit more on that, and how does loyalty play out in your life?
I think it plays out in a variety of ways. I think it kind of establishes a really clear boundary for me and how I deal with others, and then I guess how I might expect others to sort of reciprocate that. And I've learned, obviously, over the years, that I have to sort of adjust my my expectations, because that's not always the case. But yeah, I guess it's shaped how I show up at work. I do. If I don't feel that I can have values alignment and a sense of mission that attaches me to be there and be loyal with that group, whether it's an organization or a community group or whatever, that's that could be a real issue, but it's also quite a strong galvanizer, because once I am on that mission, once I develop that sense of loyalty, I do stick around in the ups and downs, and I think that sort of shows up. Like, I think one of the things that I hear from other people when they talk about me is they sort of talk about integrity, and I think integrity stems from that sense of loyalty. That if I decide that I'm going to do something with an organization, with a group, or with some people, or with a person, with an individual, I want to make sure that that gets delivered with integrity, because that is part of the loyalty that I kind of depart from. So yeah, it's a cool value, but it can have some disadvantages as well.
And I love how you brought integrity into the mix as well. And why does integrity matter?
I think integrity matters to me because maybe it's because I've seen the people that are closest to me, like my parents, go through some really tough decisions and changes in their lives, so that they can create something for myself and my sister, for the rest of the family. And I think that sense of like commitment, I think, and proving, going through, doing the hard yards, proving that promise. I think that's like, I've seen that in like the most real of terms. And so for me, that shapes up, my baseline expectation of myself. Like I I really, like, it eats away at me when I say something to someone and then I feel like I can't, um, I'm unable to deliver. Like it really does grind away at me, which is something I'm working on, because as you get older, as you take more responsibilities on, um, sometimes things drop and um, you can't satisfy everyone. So yes, that's something. There's a downside to that integrity as well, that I sometimes have to do some self work on. But yeah, I think it comes from that sort of sense of commitment of like, if I say I'm going to do something, then I want to get that thing done, and I want to get it done with, want to go in with the best of intentions and with the right intentions. I yeah don't like to start things off with, I've got one intention in mind, but I'm communicating a different intention. And yeah, and I guess that intersects, nicely with my faith as well, because my faith is all about intention. Like that's, the value of any work that we do in our lives as Muslims, all stems from, what is the intention that we put towards it.
That's very beautiful. And how do you think that people feel when you go in there with this intention and with this integrity and all of the values that you've just spoken about? How do you think that's going to make someone feel on the other side?
I think it does create a really good level of trust, because I think that gives people a sense of security that, there is an authentic conversation being had. I think a lot of integrity is a really hard one, because that's like, you have to build that over your actions. It's not something that you could say, I could say I show up authentically, but it's like integrity is like, no, you have to have that track record to show that, you've committed to things, you've pulled them through, and where you haven't pulled them through, you've managed to make it right as well. So, um, yeah, I think it does. It forms trust. It gives people that sense of comfort that, this is a person that I can work with. And really, like, those are the relationships that I like to have. Like the most beautiful thing, out of starting my own business in the last 9 months, is that, the people that I work with, the customers that I work with, um, they have all come through sort of referral, and that sort of reputation, and it kind of gets passed on, and then it creates a really it creates a really good, um, sort of relationship, as a platform that helps us collectively build on, and it helps with the hard conversations as well. So when there is when the other party feels like something is not being done to a certain standard, or whatever it might be, there's an element of, yep, okay, we can acknowledge that and we can do something about it. So yeah, I think that builds, it builds trust ultimately.
I want to dive in a little bit deeper on that point that you made. You said that it's not something that you just get, you've got to work through that along those lines. I want to just dive into your own workings. How did you build on that as a leader, as now an entrepreneur? How did you work through that in your own life?
That's a good question, because I think, like, there's layers to leadership, right? There's sort of, leading yourself. So how do you actually, how do you apply some of these principles to the way that you lead your own life, and how do you hold yourself to account, what expectations do you have, what goals do you have of yourself, and how do you sort of ensure there's integrity built into those as well. And so that's the first layer, it's the conversation with myself. An element of that, I think I listen to lots of podcasts and different opinions, and I think there is the performance culture. It can kind of really put a huge burden on oneself to go, if I don't achieve the goal that I want to achieve, then I'm going to be really hard on myself. There's an element of self, and the performance culture, I think, puts a big burden on you to go, I need to hit these goals. So I don't think I have, my goal setting process, and goal reviewing process, I guess. It's I do try to have a vision for where I want things to go, put down some goals, but not, they're not so rigid that I go, there's an element of being kind to yourself in that process as well. So one element is yep, I want to make sure that there is integrity in me meeting those goals. And I want to, I don't want to just superficially tick something. I actually want to feel like I've meaningfully moved that forward. But at the same time, there's an internal dialogue of you've got to be kind to yourself as well, because even in our faith, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God says in the Quran that there's لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah does not burden someone with something that is beyond their capacity. So you're not, your accountability, I guess, to yourself and to God ultimately is bound, it's got a limit, it's got a capacity. So I think acknowledging that is really important, because otherwise you can end up in a really negative cycle if it can kind of work against you as well. So I think that's kind of one layer, which is how does integrity show up within myself and leading self, and then there is how does it show up in leading others, whether it's my family, my team. A big element of the approach that I take in all aspects of my life really is co-creation. I don't, even with the family, sometimes we'll sit at the beginning of a year and try to do some goal setting collectively. It is it's a collective process. It's not these are the things that you must do. And it's the same thing with my team, and I think that's a big part of how you build integrity into the process as well, is that you get people on board from the beginning, so that they're helping set forward the intention, they're helping set forward the goals, they're helping set forward the vision, and then you're sort of able to support each other and hold each other accountable and work out, if things aren't heading in the right direction, how might you change things, and how do you have brave conversations and courageous conversations around those things as well. So and I think the last layer is I guess how you show up as a leader more broadly. So whether it's within your network, within public spaces, within your communities, and that, to me, again, you bake integrity into the work that you do by just being able to follow through with things, being able to put the right effort in, and then acknowledging that if you are reaching your capacity, then how do you ensure you kind of figure out a way to address that? You don't just sort of disappear into the background. You actually go, okay, well, I'm just I need to face this. I'm not going to be able to handle this much work or whatever it might be, or the Palestine thing has been really fascinating, because there's a lot of I've had a lot of commentary from people who go, oh, you're so brave for for putting the Palestine flag on your profile, or for speaking out about Palestine on LinkedIn, which is a professional platform. But to me, it's like that's not courageous at all. Like, to me, that's a level of integrity into myself as a leader. Like, that's if I say that I care about a certain cause or social justice or anything like that, that has to be connected systemically to everything that I do. So then otherwise there's no integrity there. Like, I can't be on the one hand, doing something here and then doing something completely the opposite there. And there can be like tension. Like, for example, I work in the AI space. My company is all about helping organizations with AI adoption. And some of the companies that I work with, and are, there's controversial issues around them, in terms of how, what sort of dealings they might have with the Israeli government, for example. And so there is tension there. But I guess for me, it would not, like, integrity would be acknowledging those tensions. If you don't acknowledge them, then you're sort of just kind of pretending, like you're saying one thing and doing something else. And that, like, if that tension exists, like, let's actually highlight it. Let's actually talk about it. And that, again, that builds integrity into how you show up as a leader.
And this is a really fascinating topic, and complexity, tension, it's something that all leaders face in some form or another. Can you share a moment in your life where you've gone through something that was either, fully on one side or the other, and you had to make a twist? So, for example, was there a cost to a decision that you made?
I mean, leaving Datacom, I had a 20-year career there. So I joined them as a graduate, and then I had a really fulfilling career. Lots of growth opportunities. So very, very blessed, alhamdulillah, that I got to do the things that I got to do over there. It's a great company as well, because they've actually they've enabled me. I've had things that I've had to do there that where that tension existed. Like, one of the very early projects that I had there was I got put in as a technical lead, this was early stage of my career. So leading a project for the first ever digital version of the lottery games. And so big project, New Zealand Lotto, and huge deal, multi-million-dollar project, and put me in as the lead. And the conflict was there from the beginning. I was like, oh, I'm not comfortable with this. And it happened, like, Ramadan started right after the project, that happened. And I was a week or two in, and because it's like, at the one hand, you're like, oh my God, this is a great opportunity. On the other hand, I walked into my manager's office. I said, look, I'm really sorry. I don't think I can go through with this project, because it's against my beliefs and my ethics. And that was hard, because that was, I was 2 years into my career. Like, it was a really early stage for me to be put on as a technical lead in a pretty major project, maybe 2.5 years. And so making that call to go, no, this is not going to work. That was a hard call. And my manager, who I still stay in touch with, because his reaction was great. He was like, don't want this to totally appreciate you coming forward. Don't want you to have that tension. So that that sort of worked out positively. And maybe that gave me faith in things that I did later on. So there was a few instances later on where I faced that tension of, this isn't, there's an opportunity, but there's a cost, and the cost is actually compromise on my faith, or compromise on my values. And and I was really glad to choose my values. And I think, leaving Datacom was not an easy decision at all. Like I was in a well-respected position there, and I had a lot of influence, both internally, a lot of relationships externally. But yeah, I kind of got to a place where I felt like my sense of mission was no longer quite clear. And then I had to do some work to kind of work out, well, what is my mission and what's my purpose and what is it that I want to do, and that clarified to me that I actually needed to go out and do my own thing, and that freaked me out. Like that's a that's a big step to take, and I've got a family, 3 growing kids, and so that taking that step was quite a hard decision. And alhamdulillah, I don't, there's no regrets at all. But that was another test of integrity, but also of faith. Like I feel, like as Muslims, we always, in our faith, we always say that God is the ultimate. He's the risk, or the whatever wealth you might accumulate, or wherever income you might get, that is ultimately, that is given to you by God, and those sources will come out. Obviously, you have still put in the effort, but the sources will, the supply comes from God, and so you never really test that until you get out of a very high salary job into the brave new world of starting your own thing. And that was the ultimate test of it. And alhamdulillah, the faith has been rewarded. So yeah, there's been a lot of points where I've had to do, and there's been the other way as well. There's been points where my ethics were tested, and I think I stood by my ethics, and I think that might have had a negative sort of effect on my career progression, or a deal, or whatever it might have been. But I still look back and I'll go, no, that was the right thing to do.
You've changed from a huge job to come in, and now another huge job, really, because entrepreneurship isn't easy. There's so many people out there that want to start, a lot of people with lots of ideas. What were the biggest lessons that have shaped you through your career that you're now implementing?
The biggest lessons, I think, one is having clarity of purpose. I think that's really important. And it can have different layers to it. Like, I think the first layer for me personally is clarity of, like, forget about the work, forget about, the actual functional side. Why do I want to do this? And ultimately for me, it was about how can I in my lifetime here on earth do something that is actually going to leave something more meaningful in terms of change for myself and my family and my community. And I can see that as a Muslim community here in New Zealand, we lack entrepreneurs and business owners. We lean very heavily on having professional careers, people entering into engineering, into being a doctor, into being a lawyer, an accountant, and we kind of, like, even when I left Datacom, it was really funny. I sat down to tell my mum, and she goes, why would you do that? It's a really strange thing for her. I'm like, oh, I'm building a company, and she goes, why don't you just go and get another job? So I think there's a positive change, and trade is actually highly encouraged in our religion, but somehow we've kind of lost track of that culturally, I think. So yeah, part of that was sort of trying to do something that was going to create some value that I can then reapply that value back into my community, and hopefully inspire my kids to do something different. So to me, that was like, forgetting about all the why would I do, what is it that I'm going to do and all that stuff. That was like the one of the core layers of the purpose. And then the second layer of it was, okay, what is it that I actually what brings me a sense of commitment, sense of passion, sense of mission. And for me, that was working with communities and enabling people, communities, organizations to be empowered to take control of their own future. And like, that's sort of the vision that I have for our community, the Muslim community. But that's the work that I do is always in the enablement space. I don't necessarily go in going, oh, I've got these skills and I'm gonna maximize the value out of them. I kind of go in with the mindset of I can connect people, I can facilitate spaces, and therefore my superpower is actually how do I enable others, how do I enable communities, how do I enable individuals. So I think having clarity of that purpose then gave me a clarity of, okay, well, what is it that I want to do? Well, I want to help. I can see a big change coming with AI. Therefore, I want to help organizations with navigating that change. I want to help individuals who are being disrupted in terms of the dynamics of the workforce and changes in the job market that are coming. How do you get people to wrap their heads around this AI movement and change? And so, that helped me then kind of build up, what is going to be the next venture and what Scene was. And look, if I, the vision was, I could have potentially gone, this is something you might be able to implement in a company. But I think the combination of, the vision was fairly new. It's a very emerging space. It's slightly risky, but also that base layer for the purpose of I want to create lasting value that can impact my community. I think those things kind of led me towards opening my own business. So I think it's not a step to be taken lightly. Like, I know there's a lot of people that I talk to who went, you just got to take the step. You just got to step out. You just got to try something. And that is true. Like, you do have to step out. You do have to try some things, and you'll never know until you try. But I think anchoring in purpose is really important because that will give you the energy to sustain as you go through the motions of building something. Because, like, you come out, things will take time to build up. So you need that purpose to help you through, maneuvering that. I think there's a lot of overthinking that happens in the business space as well. So a lot of people will go, I've been thinking about this for a long time, and they'll try to do some business planning and a whole lot of stuff. And it's important to do some of that. Honestly, you can do a lot of that market research these days with generative AI tools. Like, you can do that process much faster. And so the key is execution. Like, you can spend as much time crafting the best strategy in the world, but the strategy is meaningless without execution. So we went in with this hypothesis of we can help businesses, we can help people. We had this kind of approach around a 12-week accelerator model where we bring talent through from vocational education and universities. We wrap coaching around them. We give them a challenge from a business, and then they work on it over that 12-week period to help create some clarity for the business around the opportunity of AI. And then they will have a showcase and hopefully gets them into employment. And so it bridges the gaps for both the businesses and the people that are involved. And we're doing that, but that is, there's a bit of time for that to build up to something that is scalable and, and revenue generating. And so there's a whole bunch of other opportunities that have come out in the meantime where we're doing AI fluency training now. We didn't set out to be an AI training organization in that sense, like teaching people how to use ChatGPT or Copilot or how to write prompts and things like that. But we're doing that because that's where the market is leading us. So I think the second tip is so first tip is purpose. Second tip is don't overthink your strategy. You just need to hit the market and start validating as quickly as you can. I think, and then I think the third one for me has been your mind plays a lot of mental games with you, and so it's how do you how do you manage that? Like for me, Middle Eastern Arab man, there's it's ingrained in you that you are the breadwinner in the family. So that's like one thing that plays in one side of your mind that goes, what the heck have you done? You've just like left your secure salary and you've gone into this void. Then the second thing that was playing on my mind personally, which I think was a unique situation, and that I spent 20 years in one organization, and so even though I had variety of roles, and I had a lot of connections when I came out of it and a lot of experiences, your mind still plays tricks on you. So the hard part for me was like, is my professional worth what I really think it is? Like that was the imposter voice that was playing in my mind. It was, is that you've kind of jumped out assuming that you're worth what you're worth, but are you worth anything without having the biggest company in the country behind you? So and then I think as you go through the motions of setting up the business, you'll encounter ups and downs, and things take a bit longer than you thought, and so how you manage some of these things, I think, is important as well, and I think a part of all of those three things, the mental games, and I think it's like, what are the rituals that you and the things that you anchor yourself in that will hold you through, so that you can just keep moving and develop that resilience. And yeah, I think there's a combination of things there. Like for me, there was health, there was family, there was faith. Those things all sort of helped me carry through those different motions.
Was there anything that you wished you wouldn't have known before you started, now that you've come through this point in your journey?
I don't have any regrets right now. I think like when I came out of my full-time position, I kind of went, like, I guess maybe earlier this year, I was kind of going, this is something I should have done a couple of years ago. But then I revised that, because everything happens in the time that it's meant to happen, right? Like, I don't think, I think everything that I've gone through has kind of helped me arrive to where I am today. So I don't think, there's nothing that I look at now and go, I wish I known this, I wish I'd known that. I still don't think, we're still in market validation mode. Alhamdulillah, we've managed to, like, me and my co-founder are both able to sustain ourselves full time now. We've got around 8 people around us in the business now as well. So we've managed to create some good momentum and traction, and a good portfolio of customers and good community. But that, to me, that success is two things. It's a blessing from God. It's a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And secondly, it's the work that we put in before, leading up to here.
Husain, thank you so much for joining me back on this podcast. And it's always fun to have a little bit of a glitch in technology and return again. So thank you so much for returning.
Oh, good. Happy to be back. Hopefully I'll remember what I was talking about.
I hope so too. Last time we were just touching on the fact that this podcast is called Care Beyond Profits. And my question to you is, if you had to give one last message to the world and our listeners, what would you like them to remember and leave them with? Yeah,
I mean, my biggest message to everybody is always to anchor in purpose. Like, I know it's a very philosophical thing, but we all sort of think about these things of why are we here, and I think that's a really good thread to pull on, because I think otherwise we get sort of into the day-to-day mix of making more money, and making more money is not the reason why we're here. So really ask yourself, why are you here? What's your purpose? What can you offer others? How can you serve others? And what can you offer the world? And I think work backwards from there. That was definitely, and I don't remember if I talked about that last time, but it was definitely one of the things that I did as I went on this new journey in my career. And it's probably one of the most courageous things that I've ever done. I've had a very varied and interesting life, but I think the courage to step away from a big secure job in a really big company and then go and start something. I think that was a big call to make, but it was really grounded in the purpose that I have for myself and how I want to help communities take control of their future. So that's that was really the grounding for what I'm doing right now. And anything that I can to sort of reinforce it, I definitely will. So embedding that thread throughout. Who do you do business with? What kind of business do you do? All of those things is really, really important. So it's kind of taking a deeper look into your own self and seeing how you can embed that purpose into the work that you do.
Thanks, Husain. And we covered a lot about your background. We covered a lot of things on technology and AI. For our listeners, in simple terms, do you want to tell them a little bit more about Scene Ventures and what do you do in very simple terms so that they can digest it a bit more?
Sure. Okay. Simple terms is really is really hard, but I guess the purpose or the initial idea was I could see, and my co-founder could see, that there was a big transformation that is coming with AI. A lot of people say, "Oh, AI is just a tool," but actually, there is a new paradigm shift in how we interact with technology and what we expect technology to do, and how that sort of relationship between humans and technology is going to play out. And I think, we felt it's really important to be able to help individuals with navigating that as well as other companies with navigating that. So I guess that's where we started from. And at a basic level, what we've managed to sort of anchor ourselves in is an accelerator sort of offering where we help take learners that are coming on a learning journey out of vocational institutions or universities. We wrap coaching around them, and then we work with businesses to curate challenges for those learners, and we get them to work through those challenges in a very structured way. So we go from a high-level ambiguous challenge. An organization might have a challenge around customer conversion, or they might have a challenge around how they might reimagine a certain aspect of their customer experience. And we help them sort of take that really ambiguous challenge and then bring it into something that is more real. And so we turn that into something that's usable during a 12-week period. So that's kind of the core of what we do. And so we do that for businesses as a service. From out of the 12 weeks, we can help them then build out that product if they wanted to. And everything we do is in the AI space. But the other thing that we do is we also work with entrepreneurs. So we incubate ventures, hence the word Scene Ventures. And so through that 12-week process, we could actually incubate companies as well. So that's kind of the two tracks or the two business models that we have within Scene Ventures. But yeah, everything is really grounded in, it's about the AI wave and the change that's coming with that. And it's about how do we help uplift capability and explore what's possible, rather than coming at it with riding a hype wave or promising the world.
And looking ahead, what's next for you and Scene Ventures?
Yeah, so we're a year in. We have run quite a number of cohorts through that accelerator, which is really cool. We've actually done a few different flavors of the accelerator in different programs. So yesterday, we actually just launched our creative tech program, and we had that's a really cool partnership between us, Auckland Council, Microsoft, Te Pukenga, and MSD. So it's quite a cool sort of way of bringing together the ecosystem. Where we're heading, I guess, is we always thought this would be a scalable model. So we'd want to scale that in New Zealand. We are already in market in Australia, so we're having some conversations. So I guess, expanding the model into other places as well. And then we're just raising money for our first venture. So that's the other side of it, is we actually want to produce new companies and create new value and create opportunities, new opportunities for employment for people as well. So that venture is actually, that's got people that have come through our talent accelerator who will be working inside that company. So it's kind of rounding that out to go. There's a talent sort of future employment, future pathways element to what we do, and so that's really strong in our purpose. There is a opportunity for businesses to sort of transform the way that they do things, and that there's an opportunity to create new products and new ventures as well. So it's really taking that model and scaling it.
Well, and huge congratulations. That's a huge step forward for you guys.
Thank you. It's been a really fast ride this year. I feel I'm a little bit exhausted, so I'm ready for the end of the year and the holidays. But really grateful, alhamdulillah, that we've managed to get this far.
Alhamdulillah. And finally, before we round up today's episode, I just want to ask you to tell the people where can they find you, and where should they follow you?
So you follow me on LinkedIn. If you just type my name, you'll see it. I've got a little Palestinian flag next to my name as well, so it's very distinctive. You can follow Scene Ventures on LinkedIn as well. We try to post semi-regularly and try to share a little bit about, things that you can actually do with AI tools. So we try to spread that knowledge and spread that love as well. And those are probably our two key channels for sharing. If you're in Auckland, you can find me at Grid Auckland at 101 Pakenham Street. Just come in and ask for me, and then I'll make you a coffee.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Husain. Jazakallah khair for joining me on this podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Your work in technology and bringing humanity is very inspiring, and I've really appreciated the gems you've shared today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Azura.
Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation and got as much out of it as I did. As always, if this episode speaks to you, please like, share, and subscribe to Care Beyond Profits. I appreciate you, and until next time, keep caring beyond profits.